Welcome to Rip It Up, the Renovations podcast. I'm Jenny.
I'm Kate, and between us we've renovated a lot of houses and it hasn't scared us off.
In fact, we loved it so much that we can't stop talking about it. So in this podcast, we will give you all the tools and info that you need to tackle your own renovation like a pro. Today we are talking all about heating systems. It's not a topic that we're experts on, but we're going to take you through how we made the decisions in our previous homes around which boiler to choose, radiators, underfloor heating, heat pumps, and we'll tell you all about the mistakes we made and the things that we would do again. Okay, welcome back to the podcast. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Jen.
Episode 30, is that auspicious? Is that a lucky number?
It's a little bit of a milestone anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a good one because you and I spoke about before we started recording. We're going to keep this one to 30 minutes or less because it's a big complex topic. We're not experts. We're not going to dive into the technical details of this topic, but we're going to talk through what's out there, how to make the right decision, or what factors go into making the decision.
Yeah, I might talk about mistakes I made last time as well versus what I'm doing this time and why.
It's a hard one to get perfect, so maybe go easy on yourself if you're in the middle of a decision yourself, listener.
True.
Anyway, if you haven't read the title of the podcast and you don't know what the hell we're talking about choosing your heating system for your home. How do you pick the right one? How do you know? I found it a bit of a minefield. I kind of tuned out, to be honest, when I was picking my own one eventually.
It is, yeah. And if you're not doing like a huge renovation, it can be a very expensive retrofit.
Yeah.
So like trying to get that right and balancing the amount of work, the amount of cost you're putting into the new system versus the time you're going to be in the home and the payback and all that. Like it is a minefield. Like it's a complicated topic.
Yeah. So if you are doing a huge renovation and you have a lot of space, the world is kind of your oyster, I suppose, in choosing what type of heating system to go for. And sorry, when we're talking about heating systems, we're kind of talking about everything from your boiler all the way through to, like, do you choose a radiator versus whatever else there might be available out there. So it's a lot. One thing that will dictate it a certain amount is what do you have running into your home. So I had gas coming into my home, which is great. Not everybody might have that. You might be looking at electricity, in which case you have different options available to you. And then, of course, there's a whole world of renewables out there as well.
Yeah. What do you have in your current house?
I'll tell you my thought process, right, and my decision process for mine. And this might be helpful for anyone else with a really small house and space constraints. I have a gas line coming into my home. I looked at all the renewable stuff, the air to water pumps, and I wanted to do that, but it didn't work for me because the outdoor space required by an air to water pump, it's about the size of a large suitcase, and I know that doesn't sound very big, but I just didn't have it. I don't have that in my house, so it just wasn't an option at the time. The second thing that I wanted to go for then was a combi boiler. Again, because of space saving measures, I just figured that would take up the least amount of space and it would potentially be the most efficient, and to go from there. And then I had a really good plumber and he advised against it. I think there are really good ones out there, but he tested the water pressure coming into my house. And because I have 2 bathrooms and because I love a bath, God forgive me, I just do. I really love a bath. I know they're not the most efficient. He ultimately said it would be better if we could try to fit in a full-size pump with a water tank.
Okay.
And so he and my contractor figured out how to do that. They managed to fit it in under the eaves, just in the upstairs of my house beside where the dormer extension is. So I did sacrifice a little bit of space, but it's a hot press really now, so it's not too much of a sacrifice. There would have been a pump or a combi boiler in there anyway.
Yeah.
And the water tanks takes up space, but it's space that, it wasn't too hard pressed to sacrifice.
Yeah.
So I have a full-size water tank, very well insulated, and then I have a gas boiler and a pump, and that gives me great water pressure. And I'm really happy that my bills are buttons.
Really?
Like really, really low. Yeah.
Oh, and in terms of the heating then, do you have underfloor downstairs?
Underfloor downstairs. So underfloor, we've spoken about it. Have we spoken about this before?
Yeah, a little bit. We touched on it a little bit, yeah.
That was a really easy decision for me because the floor was coming up anyway. And if you're listening and you're thinking about going for underfloor heating, the expense really is in ripping up the floor. So what happens is the floor comes up, they just lay a winding web of tubing. It's like, it sounds so sophisticated, underfloor heating, and it looks so simple when they put it down. Then they pour a layer of screed over it, and they level out the floor, and then your normal whatever substrate and everything goes on top of that. So, pour down the substrate and then just screed on top of it. So if you're taking up the floor anyway of your house, then putting down underfloor heating is such a no-brainer. Like, it's really not more expensive. But if you have to think about ripping up your floor, then that's an additional cost to consider.
Yeah. I'll tell you where we were with our last house, and I'll tell you where we've gotten to this time. So last house, I mean, both the houses I'm going to talk about are old houses, right? So old houses typically don't work amazingly well with heat pumps because the heat pump or air-to-water systems tend to run at a slightly lower temperature than a standard, say, gas boiler temperature. So the radiators, the aluminium radiators and underfloor systems are all kind of that bit cooler. And in old houses like mine, like, you'll typically have cold spots, you'll have drafty spots, you might have non-kind of insulated walls or single glazed sash windows in some parts and stuff like that. So it makes it hard to boost the heating enough to heat those cold spots. So it kind of decided for us both times that it made sense to do just a standard kind of efficient condenser gas boiler. And because it was kind of like a 3-bedroom or this time a 4-bedroom home, like that's going to be a family home, we needed, like, it could never really be a combi boiler because we're going to have a couple of showers going at a time, you know, at some stage in the very near future. So like, combi boiler was always out. So it's going to be a standard condenser boiler, big water tank. Last time we did it all in the attic. We thought we were being so smart. We put our water tank up there, we put the boiler up there, put the pump up there, submersed in the hot water tank, and yeah, it was a disaster. It was a disaster.
What? No, super smart. No, where else did you put it?
So if you've any air, which you typically will in kind of, you know, piped central heating systems, air will get in, you know, at the joints over time. It was kind of an old system anyway, and while we replumb most, any bits of air that might get into that system will all travel up, and up into the attic, and we just kept losing pressure in our boiler. And it kept cutting out. So like, we had problems from the get-go with having our boiler and all that. And now I'm sure there's ways and means around this, and maybe, you know, there's an easy way to overcome all this when you're installing it in the first place. It just didn't work for us. So this time we had a kind of a dedicated plant room or kind of side shed or garage. So that's our dedicated plant room this time. And we are doing underfloor downstairs. We didn't last time because we didn't have concrete last time.
I was so excited for you to have underfloor heating. Like,
I
it's
know.
my favourite thing ever.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
I know.
Anyone considering it, like, yes, it's worth it. Please get it. It's just so nice.
Because both houses had suspended floors. This house, we had a lot of rot in this house, like a lot of woodworm on the floorboards, a lot of rot in the joists. Our bay window in our bedroom that we're currently restoring is quite badly rotten and stuff as well. So because it's a detached house, we had a lot of moisture kind of in underneath the floor, everything. So a lot of the joists were gone anyway. So we pulled those joists up and we poured concrete instead. And that's why we decided to put underfloor. So now we're going to have lovely, toasty underfloor downstairs, the standard gas boiler, efficient gas boiler, and then upstairs we're just going to have radiators. Because we're not
radiators upstairs too.
Yeah. What kind of radiators do you have? Just standard kind of steel ones?
They're two totally standard. So I have one upstairs in the bedroom, just a very standard, like, it kind of mimics a little bit of that cast iron look. It's one of those small, slim, little
columns.
Little ones. Yeah, little columns. And then in the upstairs bathroom, I have a heated towel rack.
Lovely.
And that's
yeah,
it.
I've the same. I had the same last time. I've gone for the same this time. The kind of like that mimic cast iron column rads, but they're a slight bit more contemporary, I guess, than cast iron. And then when we were renovating, actually, this is kind of slightly off topic, but I've kept it in the house and I'm not going to get rid of it because it's a great little kind of booster heater if you ever need it. But we bought a cast iron radiator that had been retrofitted with an electric kind of element. So it's an actual cast iron radiator. Yeah, but it's plug-in. So like, it works like an electric radiator and it actually gives great heat. I used to have it in my attic, which wasn't plumbed. We might not, you know, plumb the attic at all because it's just an office space. So like, it works perfect for up there and that heats that whole room kind of no problem. So that's that's a great place. That's a great solution if you're not retrofitting the whole place. You know, you're not replumbing everything and you're not pulling pipe work up to bedrooms and all that. Those electric cast iron rads are really good, really good. Obviously,
And they're efficient enough, are they?
they are. They're like running a kettle, I guess. They're usually
Yeah.
2.5 or 3 kilowatts. So look, they are more expensive than a central heating system per kind of gas prices, we'll say. But they're not. They work quite well. They hold the heat after they've gone off because they're heavy cast iron.
Yeah,
Like
that cast iron's amazing for that, isn't it?
it is, yeah. And our little one, like it was only, I don't know, was it 600 millimeters wide? It was a small little one on legs. It weighed 35 kilos. Like,
Oh my God.
yeah. So like they're seriously heavy. The two of us lifted it up to the attic space the first time, we nearly died. Like it was so heavy. So like
Wow.
they really retain the heat after you switch them off. So that's a really nice solution for people who are not ripping up the floors and not doing a full replumb but want that little boost of heat as well.
Yeah. The other thing that can be really helpful as well, even as a temporary measure, is the plug-in oil radiators. You can just buy them. They are also they do a really good job of retaining the heat and heating up a small room. What I did when I was living in this house before it was renovated was I bought a couple of those. I had no central heating at all and no hot water. And I bought a couple of those and then plugged them in and on those plugs that have, the little manual clocks. And
Yeah.
I just have them coming on for, little bursts of time during the day. And they're really efficient. Like it cost me not much. Obviously, you're right. Like it's not as efficient as gas or especially as any of the, air to water or heat pumps. But it's a temporary measure or a space that you just can't afford to do. Like having a good radiator on a timer is
Yeah,
great
and
solution.
there's little smart panel ones as well. Our kind of garage space was also doubled up as my husband's office, and he had just one of the flat panel smart electric radiators.
Yeah.
So it was controlled by an app or by Alexa or whatever. So he had it just timed for the hour before he came out to the office that it would go off at night and stuff like that. And you could, I think there was a built-in thermostat in it as well. So like once it got to temperature, it would switch itself off. So like those were like extremely inefficient at a time when they just, got switched on and then you forgot to turn them off for the whole day or whatever. But like, there's so many other solutions that like timers and smart connectivity and all that kind of stuff now that they're actually not a bad solution if you get good ones. But yeah, that was my kind of boiler heater situation. So what I learned from the last time was just be cautious if it's going kind of 3 floors up, because we had obviously like a kitchen level, then the kind of hall level was a different level, then we had the first floor, we had a return floor, and then everything was in the attic. So I guess it was a big network of pipe work to rely to be completely airtight, and it obviously wasn't, and that's where it caused our issues. So we're not making that mistake again, but I am excited for Underfloor this time. I'm really excited.
Oh, it's the
actually.
best. You won't be disappointed.
Do you have
is it
Underfloor?
possible-
Do you have Underfloor
Huh?
in your? You've Underfloor downstairs in your
All downstairs. That's
bathroom.
what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Is it possible to get underfloor upstairs? I've never seen it.
Well,
And
I
don't think so, but like,
I saw two versions of this. Obviously, if you can pour a concrete slab as well,
Yeah.
but that's a huge job, right? Because you'd have to encase it and whatever, and you have to reinforce your low-bearing walls or anything downstairs. So like that's a huge thing if you're going to pour concrete between the floors. But also, I saw this kind of version of underfloor that runs into the joists. Now I don't know how good this is, but it's like big blocks of foam, like insulation foam, with grooves cut out for that pipework, like you said, goes downstairs where the screed goes through it. So it kind of gets embedded into these foam blocks, and then these foam blocks go between the joists upstairs.
interesting.
So it's not a tiny job. I don't know, is it still quite experimental? So there are kind of ways and means around it. And then for bathrooms, which I'm doing this time as well, where we have tiled floors, we're going to do Devimats, which are essentially like an electric version of underfloor heating. But they're just like a roll-out mat with a little network of kind of heating elements on them. And they'll go underneath the screed before you tile your floors. So you'll have nice toasty floors in the bathroom as well. Because that was something I regretted.
So nice.
Yeah, I regretted not doing it last time. So I'm definitely doing it this time.
Because my downstairs bathroom does have the underfloor and my upstairs doesn't, and it does make a difference.
Yeah.
And I know those mats, they're not as efficient again as, as gas, but especially if you're thinking about putting in solar panels or renewable energy or something, then it's a really small impact overall.
I know, yeah.
Totally
And
worth
again, you can have it connected to maybe the lights in the bathroom or something, so you don't forget to turn it off, or
That's a good
or
idea.
timer or something like that. That it's only a 30-minute thing, but it's really good for like even maybe not heating the whole room because I'll have like a towel radiator as well, but just to evaporate the water off, the splash water off after your shower makes a big difference.
It does. It keeps the whole place so dry. Like it's genuinely, it's brilliant
Yeah.
for just clearing moisture out of the bathroom. And it's just such a luxury. Like I really just, I love it so much. The other thing I've seen it online. I've watched YouTube videos about it, but I don't know anyone that's gotten it installed. If you're redoing your house and you don't want radiators taking up space in your walls, is heating pipes that go in behind your skirting.
Yes, yeah.
That's so clever, I think.
This is quite big in the States as well.
And the UK, I think.
Yeah, and there's another kind of version. I did have a kicker radiator before, or a kicker kind of blow heater, because we couldn't fit a radiator in our kitchen in our house in Galway. So we built it into the kicker of the kitchen. It was kind of more of a blow heater than a radiant heater or whatever. But that was kind of a cool option if you're tight on space as well. But they're not the most efficient. But I've seen other kind of panel radiators that are sunken into the floor as well, which is quite cool.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So almost like a little mini, we'll say short cast iron one, big wide one, loads of different fins on it. And they sit in the kind of void under your floor if you have suspended floors. So I think that's a really cool option. And apparently, I only read this now, I don't know how true it is, and I don't have allergies, but if you suffer from allergies, it's better because it doesn't disturb the airflow as much, so you get less dust and stuff from when you turn on your heating.
Yeah, because underfloor heating in general, it's super, super efficient and effective because the heat's distributed evenly around the room, which is great. And then radiators aren't, because they just heat up certain parts of the room, and you have to get a lot of air circulation in order to distribute that heat, so it's less effective. But I didn't know that about allergies. That I guess it would make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. Something I read anyway. But on the heat pumps, right? So I haven't had a heat pump in any of my houses, but I know people who have, and I've slept in those houses a good few times or whatever. And apparently they're meant to not only, keep your house at a constant kind of, comfortable temperature, we'll say, but it's also meant to distribute the heat around the house, and it's also meant to act for cooling as well, so it can kind of be reversed.
It can be reversed.
So it kind of works like an AC as well.
Because to heat it, it sucks heat in from outside, so either from the air or from the ground. And there's always heat outside because we don't live in the Arctic. So even if it's, low minus temperatures, which is about as cold as it ever gets in Ireland, there's actually still heat in the air. And so it's effective, but then it does the exact opposite if you need to cool your house down. So it just sucks the heat out of your house and pumps it out into the atmosphere. It works how a fridge works, basically.
Now, I will say, any of the houses that I've been in, they're lovely and they're cosy and they're toasty in the wintertime. But I've never had them feel cool in the summertime. Maybe it's because it goes hand in hand with really insulated homes and a lot of glazing or whatever. But those houses always feel stiflingly hot to me during the summer months. Yeah, now, I don't know if that's just a measure of all the insulation rather than the actual heat pumps themselves, but I haven't seen it work fantastically well personally.
I don't know. I don't know theoretically why it wouldn't, because you should be able to suck air out. But then I'm wondering, does there need to be a coolant for air coming in for it to actually feel a bit cooler? Is it sufficient to just suck out the heat? And I don't know. Yeah. Does it heat up again too quickly? I don't know.
I always wondered that, because we're obviously getting, hotter and hotter as the years go on, our climate's getting hotter. We're getting more of those kind of hot, I know we're not getting great weather in the summer, but we are getting some of those kind of peaks of heat in the summer that we didn't get in years gone by. And I've plugged in little plug-in aircon units or blow fans because it's so hot. And so sometimes I think, God, don't aircon units just make sense then? If we're moving that way.
So. Yeah.
But if a heat pump actually worked well doing that, I'd be all for it.
My upstairs gets so hot. My upstairs bedroom is in a dorm or extension, and it doesn't get hot for very long. So I'm not going to bother installing aircon. But God, there's a few nights there every summer where I just cannot sleep in that upstairs bedroom. It really just gets swelteringly hot.
Yeah.
But I have seen some of those. Two things work well for me. One is you have to have two fans blowing across kind of each other in the room, and that creates optimum, because one fan doesn't cut it. but 2 creates an optimum airflow in the
So you
room.
have
That really does actually cool things down.
so you have like 2 desk fans blowing at you.
Yeah, it's genuine. It works really, really well. And the second thing is there are plug-in aircon units that are really effective, and they're the ones where they have this kind of cartridge, and you dunk it in water and you soak it in water, and then you put it back in the unit, and it's really effective at, as it passes air through the, the wet cartridge thing kind of acts as a heat sink, and it takes heat out of the air that's coming through and pumps back out cooler air, and it is effective. You have to keep doing it every now and then.
Yeah.
So it doesn't last for days, but it is pretty effective.
We had one, because we used to use it in the home office and stuff. Klarstein, I think, was the brand or something. But it was a plug-in. It was almost like the big suitcase-sized ones, pretty much. Like, it's big, and it has to be vented out. So you have kind of a little vent that you pull your window down to meet, and it's kind of taped up. But it works fantastically well. The room is like a little fridge when you go in. It's so nice when like you get those really hot nights and you go into your room and it's like icy cold. It's class.
Oh my God, I love that.
But
I might get one of those in the summer.
But like it's a big unit. It's not something you'd have out all the time, so it is a bit awkward.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a great solution, obviously longer term. But yeah, I always wonder, would it make sense to have a little AC unit built in or somehow built into that heat pump system or air to water system that it would make it actually work like AC.
Yeah. I need something this summer. It's getting too much.
Someone messaged me on Instagram recently when I said I was doing a gas boiler, and they said, why didn't you get a heat pump? And I was kind of advised against it, like I said at the start, like because it's an old home, you really need to have a more airtight, better insulated home for them to work really well. And then I had read up about you could get a hybrid system. So essentially what that is it's a heat pump that works, both say 80% of the time or whatever. And then on those days where you get kind of extreme weather, really cold weather, that you need an extra boost, there's almost like a gas boiler backup, and that kicks in. Now, I did look into this, but like it's essentially the cost of putting in 2 systems or 2 boilers or, a heat pump and a boiler. So it is a big upfront cost. So you'd really want to be in the house a long time to get your money back in it, I think. But it's obviously more sustainable because you're using less fossil fuels and less gas, and you only use the boost of gas when you need to have the boost of gas. But for us it just didn't make sense financially, I think. But those are an option for older homes as well, those hybrid systems.
Worth looking into.
Yeah.
Especially now because you can get grants for lots of different things. Just be careful. Go back and listen to our grants episode. I think it's episode 14. And just be careful because you have to, choose your installer and all that kind of stuff before. Yeah, there's a lot you have to do. You have to apply for the grant first. There's a whole rigmarole to it, but just be careful. Don't rely on you definitely getting a grant. It's not that easy.
It has to be awarded before you start works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I presume the size of those things is coming down all the time, but I just could not fit it on my outside. There's just nowhere to put it. It just didn't work.
There was nowhere to put it. Like our first house in Dublin, we had like a courtyard garden essentially.
Yeah.
So like we had no space for it. You wouldn't be allowed because the protected structure mounted up on a wall or up high. Yeah. So like we had nowhere to put it, and kind of saying this time like our garden's not that big. Those units are too big, and you'd be sitting there on your patio staring at it. We had nowhere to hide it. Yeah. So I don't know.
It's a bit of a shame.
But who knows? They're probably getting better and smaller, and maybe we can dig a hole and do one of the geothermal ones.
That would be optimal if you could do that. That'd be the business.
Yeah.
Do you have smart heating in your house?
Yes,
do you have like a smart home thing?
Yeah, we had smart thermostats. We had what were they called? Was it the Nest? Yeah, I think it was the Nest. I think it was the Nest ones we had in our house. So we had them connected with Alexa, like that you would maintain like an away temperature if it picked up that both our phones were out of the house and the house was empty.
So that's very smart.
Yeah, it is very smart. So you can have like your away temperature set as low or as high as you like. And say you were coming back from holidays or whatever, give the heating a boost if you landed and you thought it was really cold or whatever, or control it remotely. So yeah, that obviously saves you a bit.
Yeah.
But beyond the smart connectivity and, all that, zoning was really important as well, I think. Making sure your zones are set out, especially if you have a lot of bedrooms and you might not have bedrooms that are used all the time, or now, especially with offices at home.
Yeah.
I think if you're not moving around a lot, you get a lot colder working from home.
Yeah,
if you're sitting at a desk versus other people in the house might be kind of, pottering around or minding kids or whatever. I think you need like different zones for how you use the house. So think that through when you're kind of planning out your zones for heating as well.
Yeah.
that you at least have the bedrooms and downstairs on separate zones, but potentially even kind of 3 zones if it makes sense.
And that's one to think about early on as well, just to
Yeah.
make sure you're talking it through with your plumber that you can do section off those zones and
Yeah.
have them on separate controls.
Definitely.
Really important. I don't have a smart system. I kind of my house. So I do have the zones. I have upstairs and downstairs, which is fine because my house is tiny, so that works grand. And I was like, I didn't get it put in at the time. I was like, I'll just think about what system I want best and what I'll install. And then I just never bothered because, again, the house is so small and it just doesn't really need, like, I usually just have it at a steady temperature downstairs. I don't have the heating on upstairs for 8 months out of the year, I'd say. It's just so easy to heat, I never bothered. But if you have bigger house, it's definitely worth thinking about.
We, believe it or not, when we moved into the house we're renovating at the moment, like 3 years ago when we moved into it, there was only one, there was a boiler with just one zone. It was just on off, right? So that meant we couldn't have.
That's what we all grew up with, like, too.
But we
couldn't turn on and off the radiators.
No, but as in, like, we couldn't have like hot water without having the radiators on.
Oh my God, okay.
Right? Because like in the 70s or 80s, that house had a back boiler that they used to use for their hot water and stuff. So like we moved into this house, we were like, okay, we don't need the heating, but I need hot water. So you were turning on the heating and making sure all the rads were off. But they were kind of, pipework was kind of getting hot, so the house is getting hot before we could get hot water. It was ridiculous.
God.
Anyway, we lasted about a month and a half and I was like, got a plumber, an electrician, and I was like, I have to put in an electric shower just to get us over this hump because like we didn't have hot water most mornings, like trying to put it on makeshift timers and stuff like that. It just wasn't working. But yeah, definitely have more than one zone.
Yeah. It's insane. If you have a larger house, like it's so worth getting those smart systems. They do save you so much money, like so much more efficient.
Yeah.
I think it's really worth it.
Yeah, definitely. No, I love smart everything. I know you're on the fence, but like I think if it makes if you feel it makes your life easier at all, like go for it because it's not as expensive as you think, and it can actually end up saving you money in the long term.
I'm on the fence in my small house where, there's not loads of people running around the place. I think if you're in a bigger house and there's more areas to control and there's more people's needs to cater to, then I think they can be brilliant.
Or you like a lot of lamps.
Or you like a lot of lamps. I do have smart, in fairness, I do have 2 smart lamps. So,
yeah.
I'm coming into the 21st century and I have a smart robot hoover, which is brilliant. But for me, because the house is so small, the light switches work fine and I just don't really need to get it. I'm not against them. I just don't need them in my current living situation.
I agree. No, I agree. I agree with you in that, like, switching on at the wall is just easier. And especially if you've guests in your house, having smart lighting can be really confusing for people.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do and they're switching off stuff and they don't know how to use voice. So anytime anyone has ever stayed in my house and I haven't been there, like all the lamps are switched off at the lamps.
Yeah.
Like so I have to kind of go around switching everything back on or whatever because no one knows how to use smart home.
And I've stayed in hotels before where I'm like, I don't know how to go to bed. And I don't know why I need to have an iPad like affixed to my bedside lapper just to turn off the second lights. Like it just, I don't know.
And the curtains and everything. Like
yeah. Although I would like smart curtains in my upstairs. Anyway, I'm on a tangent. We've got a whole different episode about that. Listen to our gadgets episode. Are you going to get solar panels?
We are putting in provision for it, but we haven't. We're not going to immediately put them in. But because we're doing all the rewiring now, it makes sense to put in the provision for them and put in like provision for car chargers or any of that stuff while we're doing all that rewiring. So I would say we will, but not immediately. It might be just a separate job because, like you said, we might be able to get the grants for it. It might just be a cleaner thing to do that a little bit down the road. Yeah.
I didn't get them when I was moving into this house because at the time the payoff period was just way too long. But my God, it's so good now. So I'm going to look into that. I'm just going to put that on my to-do list right now.
Yeah. And our house is quite a long garage at the back, which is kind of our home office and gym. So like we have a big flat roof there, like, and it's south facing. So it makes a lot of sense in our house now, I think, to do it. So I think we will.
Okay, I think that's it for heating. I don't have any advice for you, listener, on what is the best boiler to get or anything like that. Just don't cheap out is the main thing I would say. If you think you need to get a new boiler, I would just get it serviced every year. And I think like Glowworm and Fleissmann are the 2 that I got good recommendations for anyway. So definitely don't cheap out in this one. And then, yeah, think about zones if you're early in your planning process, think about zones. If you're on the fence about underfloor heating, definitely get it.
Yeah. If you can at all,
Maybe
get the
get a smart
underfloor heating.
system.
And put in the Devimat if you're doing a bathroom as well. That extra little boost of heat in a bathroom floor is nice if you can do it at all. So I definitely
luxury,
recommend that.
and you deserve it.
And if you are doing your heating system for an old house, just, beware of air getting into, boilers and losing pressure because of that, and leaks and all that mess in old houses is fun to deal with. But also just think about heat pumps may not be the best solution in isolation, just for those cold spots, unless you're insulating every wall and pouring concrete on the floor, might not be the best solution for you.
Totally. But don't rule them out, because there is a couple of spot solutions that might work in your house as well.
Yeah, there might be.
And get a good plumber, and good luck to you, because I know they're like gold dust. Get a good plumber. All right.
You're asking too much now, Jen. You're asking too much. Oh, I hope that was useful, guys. We'll see you again in a few weeks.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
If you found that episode useful, please do us a huge favour by giving us a like and a few stars, and especially click that subscribe button. Thank you.